Today on the show, we are making American cheese, for which we will need at least one existing cheese. I chose two, a Monterey Jack and a mild cheddar. I chose Monterey Jack for its mild, almost Swiss-like flavor, and mild cheddar for its quintessential cheesiness. I'm gonna grate these up using a box cheese grater that I've laid on its side. Laying it on its side allows me to push my cheese through the grater rather than pull it down, giving me a little bit more control, and more control usually means less accidents. You can use a knife if you want, or a food processor. This just needs to be broken up enough to be able to melt. And really, this process only took me about 2.5 minutes. And while I love the convenience of a food processor, it's really not convenient to me unless I'm saving a bunch of time. For this pound of cheese, or just under half a kilogram, I'm going to melt together about 200 milliliters or 3/4 cup of whole milk, plus 2 tablespoons or around 30 grams of butter. This is where the magic happens. This is sodium citrate and will help to bond the fats to the proteins, keeping our American cheese both ooey and gooey. To this amount of butter, milk, and cheese, I'm gonna add about 10 grams or 2 teaspoons. There are a couple of ways to do this, but this seems to be both the easiest and cheapest. This entire bag, which seems like it'll be more than I'll use in the 2 years that this will take to expire, only cost me about $10 US. Now, milk will begin to break and become burnt tasting around 150 degrees Fahrenheit or 65 Celsius. You could sit there with a thermometer. I'm just going to watch for a little bit of steam and then slowly add my cheese. Stir until you get an even consistency. I swapped my whisk out for a spatula, and then just before it's set, when it's a little bit looser than you want it to be, because this will firm up in the fridge, transfer it to another container. Some people use silicone molds or plastic Tupperware. I'm using this bread pan lined with plastic wrap. This needs to set in the refrigerator for about 30 minutes before we cut into it, but I thought it was a little too hot to put directly into the refrigerator, so I'm letting it cool on the windowsill for about 10 minutes before fridge time. This both looks and smells like American cheese, but how does it taste? And the answer is surprisingly cheesy. We've all just been conditioned to have bad processed cheese. That's because most processed cheese producers will use oil, where I used milk and butter. Imagine how appetizing this would look right now if I had emulsified all that shredded cheese in a pan full of oil. The taste test is one thing, but I want to see how this melts, since that's most of the point of processed American cheese. So I'm making one of the most iconic American cheese dishes, the grilled cheese. I'm going to butter one side of 2 slices of bread and then lay them butter side down in a medium heat cast iron skillet. On top, I'm going to lay my American cheese, and I'm only going to expose one side of my bread to the heat at a time. So each slice of bread gets half the heat while my American cheese is exposed the entire time. For this level of doneness, you want about 2 minutes per side in the medium heat cast iron skillet, and this is important with the buttered bread. Don't put that butter in the skillet. And look at that stretch. This is probably the gooeyest grilled cheese that I have ever had, and it is awesome. If you want to check out some more of my stuff, I post at 9 a.m. Central Time on Saturdays. Join me next time for my first ever Halloween special, and I'm going to use this American cheese to make you guys something great.